Hello, my name is Richard Fink. I'm a lawyer with Fink and Borntsein. We've been doing workers' compensation law for the past 40 odd years. And today I'm going to talk about concussions and the treatment of concussed workers by the WSIB. The problem for the WSIB is that a concussion of minor consequence in terms of scanning, such as MRI scans, or in terms of vestibular imbalance, which is objective testing for loss of balance, where the outcome is minor at the beginning. It is expected that the injured worker will recover within 12 weeks. And in 90% of cases, workers do recover in 12 weeks. It's cases where the worker does not recover in 12 weeks that the issue becomes very expensive for the WSIB and very harrowing for the injured worker. The board's plan is treatment, financial compensation, and then to terminate the worker from benefits with a return to work within that 12-week period. In today's case, I'm going to run through one file we have in our office where we represent the injured worker who suffered a concussion. To give you some background on the injured worker herself, she was a social worker who treated people with addictions. She had done that job for 11 years. She was working 60 hours a week, a very dedicated and determined therapist. In December 2016, on an icy day, she fell in the parking lot, banged her head, and strained her neck. She suffered some loss of consciousness, she believes, but not too long. She's seen at Emerge a couple weeks later in January, and they felt she had a minor concussion and that she would recover in 12 weeks' time. A couple weeks later, towards the end of January, she was having quite a bit vision problems. She couldn't drive, she couldn't see straight, and she went to an optometrist. The optometrist is not a medical doctor, but obviously optometrists do have medical training, and the optometrist thought she had very severe vision problems, and her vision was quite occluded. In May 2017, so we're now some 5 months later, the WSIB has the worker seen at Toronto General Hospital. She's seen first by a physiatrist. A physiatrist is a specialist doctor who specializes in diagnosis and treatment for the diagnosis. The physiatrist thought she had both a brain injury, that is an organic problem with her brain, and she had psychological depression. She's seen by an ophthalmologist at Toronto General Hospital. An ophthalmologist is an eye surgeon, and the ophthalmologist thought she had a very small vision problem, but she should get better in 12 weeks. And she saw a neurologist at Toronto General who thought that she did not have any significant brain injury, just a minor loss of balance, and again that she would be recovering soon. In June 2017, the worker retained a private psychologist, and that psychologist thought that the worker had both a severe brain injury and a severe psychological problem. The WSIB, after reviewing those reports in September 2017, sends the worker to see a neuropsychologist. A neuropsychologist is a doctor who specializes in symptoms from an organic brain injury. The neuropsychologist noted the worker had multiple symptoms: headaches, can't concentrate, cries often, light sensitivity, dizziness, vision problems, loss of balance, and can't drive a car. The doctor spent 10 hours examining the worker and concluded that the worker's main problem was psychological. In 2018, in April, the worker starts a 12-week program at Toronto General Hospital where she's going to deal with physiotherapists, psychologists, and occupational therapists. The Toronto General Hospital used to have a very detailed and intensive program. They ended that at the end of 2017. Their current program is much more makeshift and not nearly as effective as their previous program. But even their previous program, if they did do a study of its results, they never published them. Mount Sinai had a similar program. They did publish their results and found 60% success. The treatment at Toronto General Hospital made very little improvement for her, and their finding was that the worker was psychological, not a brain injury. I'd ask the audience to think about the following. If your spouse or your child had a significant brain injury and they didn't get better after a few weeks, would you have waited 8 more months to have the worker treated? This is what the WSIB did. And my submission would be this is a very poor conduct on their part. In December 2018, the WSIB wants to terminate the worker from benefits. The 12 weeks is long past, but they have a conflict of evidence between whether it's psychological, organic, and just how disabled the worker is. So they decide to send her to another hospital, CAMH, which is Toronto's and Canada's leading psychiatric facility. Unfortunately, CAMH doesn't have a neuropsychologist on their treatment team, so the treatment is delayed for another 4 or 5 months. In the meantime, the WSIB wants to send the worker for work. The employer agrees to take the worker back to work, but unfortunately, after 4 months of the worker doing administrative work, she's found to be not very productive and they terminate her. The worker finally gets to CAMH for treatment in December of 2019, which was another year's delay. They treat her there for about a month, and they determine that her problem is mostly psychological, and she should have 20 to 24 psychological treatments and then get back to work. It takes the worker another 10 months until November of 2020 for the worker to find a psychologist that's close enough to her home that she can transport there, given she's too dizzy and has vision problems to drive, and now she's being treated. The question is what to do in the alternative. And my suggestion would be A, treat the worker in a proper subsidized facility. B, get the worker back to some productive activities that would be in a specially monitored environment, slowly build up her productivity, slowly build up her strength, and try and get the worker back to maximum recovery with some financial incentives for her to improve. Thank you for this opportunity.